Thank you everyone for having me. It sounds like you guys have had a long day learning about all the different tools and technology at LBL. Today I am coming from you guys from Zoom. I work at Zoom and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about Zoom Whiteboard, which is a tool that you guys already have access to, and just give you guys a couple tips and an introduction of how you can potentially use the product to help your teams do work every day. So what I have today is I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to show you guys what Zoom Whiteboard is. I have a walkthrough of some different use cases, and hopefully you'll learn some things that you guys can bring into your work. So I won't try to take too much of you guys' time, but thank you for having me. So go ahead and start sharing my screen. Um, so here you go. I'm just my windows around. So um, just to give you guys a quick recap of who I am, I'm a product manager at Zoom. I work on the productivity applications here at Zoom and particularly Zoom Whiteboard. So if you guys are already Zoom users or Zoom Whiteboard users, feel free. We can talk and have a Q&A at the end too if you have any questions. So I'll start off with a little bit about what Zoom Whiteboard is. So it is a visual canvas that allows you to visualize your work and ideas. And if you've used Zoom for a while, you might know, whiteboards have been a big part of video conferencing software. It's been a big part of Zoom for a long time. In around 2023, the product started to expand a lot more, especially during COVID, as people were looking for ways to replicate their, in-person work in digital environments. And today, we still see a lot of people using Whiteboard as this way to kind of, fill the gap when your teams are hybrid. Some people are in office, some people are not. I'm 2 days a week. So, a lot of us do have to come back to the office. I mean, there are times when not everyone is in the room together. And so that's when Whiteboard becomes really beneficial. And on top of that, Whiteboard is more than just a pen tool that you might use on a digital display. It has a bunch of different tools that you can leverage to kind of do things that you can't do on just a on a blackboard. And so we have a bunch of integrations as well. So you can bring in content from your Google Drive or OneDrive, Dropbox, and you have some ways you can bring in images and GIFs for some more fun workshop activities. You also have Jira, Azure, Asana integrations that you can bring in your ticketing software. So if you have any agile teams at LBL, you can bring in your Jira tasks. And what's really cool about Whiteboard is it's really easy to invoke and bring into meetings. So as you see here, there's this whiteboard button in a meeting. So I can go ahead and demo that in a second, but all you have to do is click on whiteboard and you have the option to open the whiteboard, an existing board, or create a new one. And on top of that, after that meeting's over, whiteboards live persistently. So it's not just I want to draw something out and the meeting's over and it goes away. Whiteboards are saved with Zoom. And so, for example, I'm sharing a whiteboard from the browser. This is actually a document that I can share to my teammates to access content. So, don't think about whiteboard as just, the in-meeting experience. It's actually a document that lives on outside of the meeting. And so some common use cases of whiteboard is kind of what I'm doing here, which is a presentation. I mean, the really nice thing about whiteboard is it's a very dynamic form of presenting where you can zoom in, you can zoom out on different content. You can, of course, export this as a PowerPoint or as a PDF or a PNG, depending on, if you want to bring this into a presentation platform and continuing your editing there. We also have a built-in presentation mode. So if I click on this presentation button, you can actually present your slides. You present your frames almost like a slide presentation, which is a kind of nifty tool that we have in here as well. Personally, I like to scroll around and zoom in and out, right? I like to control that experience. The other thing that whiteboard's very commonly used for is brainstorming sessions. So if you have a team meeting and you want to get the most ideas out of everyone on your team, maybe you have everyone grab some sticky notes and paste stickies inside this frame as if you would in a in-person meeting. So if you've ever done like a design thinking workshop or you want to think about how we can solve this problem, you can actually just go here, drag, add some sticky notes, Matt's idea, and kind of just visualize all your work. And a lot of times what teams will do is it's like very common design thinking workshops is you'll try to group ideas that are similar. It's like, oh yeah, these are similar. Over here, I want to put this there. You can take advantage of the full infinite canvas. And so, yeah, one thing I actually want to emphasize is that this board is infinitely large. I mean, you can put whatever you want on here. So that's one of the nice things is you can do these kinds of brainstorming activities on the side. And then once you're ready, you can get into more formal creation, on the left or right, above, below. There's also some nifty features that we have in here hidden. So if you click on a sticky note, you can, easily react to other sticky notes. So if you think this is a great idea, I can give it a thumbs up. I can upvote it, right? If I don't really like the idea, I can downvote it. You can also see who created the idea. You can also tag them. And of course, we have a bunch of AI features. If I select all the sticky notes, I can also, group them. So AI will find some groupings and related ideas, or you can create more ideas based off the ones that are selected. And to take these kind of brainstorming sessions to the next level, we have some other ways too to allow you to interact with sticky notes and content. So I might turn on private mode and allow everyone to add their ideas anonymously and then reveal them all at once. So it's a really fun collaborative activity you can do. You can also select your sticky notes and click on this more menu and start a voting session. So if I say I just want to do a voting session myself, I can click on these and I'm like, this is totally agree. Slow voting time is a big problem. I'm done. And then if I go back to my voting session, if I was the host, I would say, okay, end for all. And you can see, 10 people voted on slow loading times is a top idea we need to focus on. So there's a bunch of these collaborative activities that you can do in Whiteboard to kind of bring more creative and engaging ways, activities into your meetings. And then, of course, I also know that Lawrence Laboratory has Zoom rooms. So I believe we're in a Zoom room today. I see a bunch of different screens in your room there. We have integrations with Zoom rooms. So if you walk up to that display, I think in the back I was told is a Zoom room device. You're able to create a whiteboard from it, and if you create that whiteboard and you just solved, some crazy equation, you can also save that to your own account by quickly pressing the icon, which is a really nice thing. So no more taking pictures of your, whiteboard and then having to send it to your email it to yourself. You can draw on a digital display and then it automatically goes to your account. So a lot of cool things there. And then another cool thing is, I'm talking about all these digital tools, but it's also you can also use a pen. So if you go up to that display in the back, you can use a pen, or you can just send a link to yourself, which I've done here. So I actually have invited my iPad here, and you can come on a different device. And if I just clicked on the pen tool, you can see that, I'm writing with my pen on my iPad. So, there are cool ways that you can, use different devices and, pens either on a touch device, on a tablet, or on a big display. And then another practical tip that I have for you is Whiteboard. It's really easy to upload images, PDFs. So for example, I've added here, I've just dragged on, just an example like paper. So if I just drag a paper onto here, it uploads right away. And you can even extract all the pages. And now they're all on the canvas. So I'm just going to go ahead and move this to the side. You can easily see all your pages at once. You can grab a pen tool, circle things, grab a highlighter, so it's that's an eraser. This is a highlighter. Highlight things. So another way for you to kind of visualize your work, and everyone can come into these meetings together and work together on a whiteboard. As I also mentioned, whiteboards used by all kinds of teams. So project management's a huge one. Ticket, agile workflows is a big thing. So if you guys use Jira, Asana, Microsoft Azure cards, you can import those really easily onto the board. So you just integrate your Jira service and copy and paste those links onto the canvas, and they're automatically recognized. And once they're on the canvas, now you can just drag and drop them and manage your, agile ceremonies right here on the board in real time collaboratively. And of course, these cards are treated like, a flow chart. So if you want to, do something like, for example, display your dependencies, you can create a line from one. So if I just click on this dot, you can actually connect different ideas together and create a flow chart of ideas. And then lastly, I think this is maybe the most related to your workflows. I think every team has the need to kind of map out processes, create flowcharts, diagrams. And this is one big area where we've invested a lot in Whiteboard and kind of expanded beyond, whiteboards and Zoom's original use case, which is creating diagrams. And so, as you can see here, you can build some pretty, attractive architecture diagrams, flowcharts in Whiteboard. If I click on, I'll go through my slides here. We have an expanded shape library. So if I click on shapes here, you can see you have all these different shapes that you can access. If you go to this slide, you can see that you can actually upload your own shapes to use in your whiteboards. So for example, at Zoom, our Zoom phone teams, our Zoom room teams that use a lot of different phone architecture actually uploaded a bunch of hardware as shapes. And so now I can, go down here and I can drag this, looks like a phone device, at the front door, and you can actually create architecture diagrams, using these different hardwares that's been uploaded by your team. So as an admin, you can approve any uploaded SVGs as icons, and then anyone in your organization has access to them. So it's a really cool way. And I'm sure there's use cases for one's laboratory to upload any icons that are used by many people in your organization. That's kind of an example here. Here's a really cool use case. One of our rooms teams maps out how, rooms should look and maps out physical architecture. So here's an example how they've done that. So there's a lot of really interesting use cases that you can do with the virtual canvas. Another thing to call out here is you can actually click on this pages button and you can create multiple pages in a whiteboard. So if you've ever used something like Lucidchart or Visio, Zoom Whiteboard would feel very familiar to you. It's all part of your Zoom account. Last thing, or second to last thing I want to talk about is AI. So we also have a lot of AI capabilities, and it's something that Zoom's been investing a lot into. In terms of whiteboarding, you have the ability to generate diagrams from a description. So if you click on flowchart or entity relationship diagram, which is another technical architecture, for software design, you can actually kind of get your first draft of a diagram in Whiteboard and then edit it like any drag and drop canvas. So for example, this is an example we have in here, and now you've kind of mapped out a database. You can click here and, you can add another row to this if you'd like. You can, connect nodes that are related. So if I grab down and go to my lines here, I can connect, different related fields. You also have class diagrams. And so Whiteboard, again, it's a way for you to create your diagrams. And then once you're ready, you can share this out to your teammates. So it's very much like an advanced PowerPoint meets Lucidchart meets Microsoft Visio. And lastly, in next coming weeks, we're also going to be releasing layers. So again, if you're building those diagrams and you want to group your content into different layers, you now have that ability. I have that one in a different demo environment. So for example, if I've created this flow chart, I can click on the layers button in the pages panel. And now you can organize different content into different layers, and you can also hide and show those layers. And so if you're talking through, for example, I want to hide the summary here and I want to talk through, talk through my diagram, but you also had a summary right over here to the side that you can reveal, when to show everything at once. And you can also, it's a great way for you to also like layer things on top of each other. So I think that was my last slide. And yeah, so that's my quick overview of Whiteboard. I appreciate you guys having me today. If you guys have any questions around Zoom or Whiteboard, happy to field them.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Um, so you've been navigating around as the host. How
Yeah.
do other users experience do they follow where you're going, or do they have control over going where they want to go?
Yeah, that's a great question. So why don't I switch? I'm going to close this board and let's pretend that we're going to create a collaborative session. So looks like there is Whiteboard accessible in this meeting. And what I can do is create a new board in this meeting. And I can see it in the camera. I think that board in the behind you has become a live display. And then everyone that's in this meeting should now be able to You can have a big drawing session with, I think, 65 people in this meeting. So as you can see at the top, it says that you're following me. So for example, I kind of zoom out here and I'm gonna do some things. So I'm gonna create a template. I'm gonna put it over here. And if you're still following me, you can see that the screen moves where I'm looking. I can release you by pressing stop. And now, everyone can draw in their own space and without, following me. If you just click on that top right button we call it the face pile, which is the icons of all the people that are in this meeting, there's an option that says in there, follow my view. So I'm going to go ahead and click it, and it should now bring you back to my screen. So that's kind of how you would manage that experience.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So it looks like, you can also, other people can call, and there's also an option there to follow other people. So, when you're in a meeting, it's very similar to like, oh, let me control your screen, or let me share my screen and walk you through what I'm looking at. Got a couple questions on the right. For those of us with some motion sensitivity, is it possible to move between pages on this platform without zooming out and dragging? So that's a good point. It's a good question. Right now, Whiteboard is kind of by default an infinite canvas. So there isn't a way to disable the zooming in and out. We do have buttons on the bottom right to control the zooming with keys. So you can always click on the bottom right plus button and minus button to control the zoom. Um, but for the most part, it is a kind of a zooming in and out canvas. And then Spanda said, can you confirm these whiteboards are independent of the Zoom room meeting, or are they automatically tied to your Zoom meeting ID? Yeah, so they're completely independent of the Zoom meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and close this whiteboard and share my screen in a second. So close this. And if I go back to my screen share, so you can actually, you can access Whiteboard the way I just did, where I added to the meeting, or you can go to, the Zoom app on your computer, and there should be a Whiteboard tab up there. You can create a whiteboard from there. Another thing you can do is just go to the zoom.us website, or you can type in whiteboard.zoom.us, and it will take you directly to a standalone Whiteboard dashboard. And as you can see here, this might feel something similar to like Google Drive or OneDrive, where I can create my own board. And, this is completely separate from the meeting, right? This is just me doing my own thing in the browser. So Whiteboard is completely separate from the meeting ID. And then Nathan asks, when starting a voting session, can we select voting items to be all stickies with content, if not feature requests? That's a great idea. So currently, no, right now, how it works is you select the things that you want to be voted on. And there's no way to, like a quick select a select all, but that's a great idea and something we can definitely look into. Great. Well, I think I'll end there. Thank you guys so much for your time. Hopefully you learned something. And I wish you all the best.